Hi, I'm Courtney Altemus, co-managing partner of Advance. And with me today is Luke Fedlam, my other co-managing partner of Advance, and Amy Hurd, Senior Associate Athletic Director, Strategic Engagement from Texas Tech University. And we are thrilled to talk to you today because you are in it every single day, all day. And here we are almost a year later. What do you think about now versus what you were thinking this time last year?
You know what, I think how much it's changed, right? I think we knew early on that it was going to evolve last summer, last July. But what we didn't know is how quickly. And by maybe the end of the first week, we thought this may move a little faster. And then it's just continued to change. And all the states have been different. Some states have moved faster than others, but the space of collegiate name, image, and likeness has changed so quickly, has changed every day. It's odd to think that something that has only been around for this limited amount of time has stages already that we've gone through, right? It's very, very, very fluid still.
So with so many things changing and so quickly in this space, how do you keep up? How do you manage all of the change so that you can best help the university, but also help your student athletes as well?
You know, I think you have to keep checking yourself as far as being uncomfortable with change, because it does change really quickly. And then you have to do your very best in all the different spaces to keep up. So whether that's reading or keeping the content fresh that you're learning, and then how are you presenting it? So, I think in July we thought, okay, we'll make this one presentation and we'll run with it time and time and time again. And then now it's like every time we do it, or at least pretty regularly, looking at it and making sure, is it still relevant information? What's new right now that we need to be teaching our coaches and our staff and our students, all those different spaces, but it just changes really quickly. So for me, you got to keep up nationally and just across the entire collegiate NIL space, but then you have to check at home and make sure, do our community, our student athletes, know what's changing and why and how it applies to them.
Yeah. So you mentioned a few different stakeholder groups, which I think is important. You've got your student athletes, but you also have coaches. You've got parents of student athletes. You've got administrators and staff. How do all of those stakeholder groups kind of know what's going on? How do you keep them kind of educated on, just managing this whole new world, this ever-changing world of name, image, and likeness?
Yeah, it's a conversation, right? More than just direct education. But you're right. Student athletes are our first priority. We said that from the beginning. And then we knew we needed to educate our coaches, our staff. That includes communication folks, right? Your communications team, your compliance group, all of those folks, and your coaches and your administrators, but then your community as well. And that includes parents, that includes small business owners, that includes local folks in general that want to be involved, supporters, and then this new thing, collectives, that came along, right, in our evolution. So it was a constant process, and listening was part of it too, right? As much as we were wanting to educate all those groups, we had to listen as well. And so just being willing to have those conversations has always been important. And then figuring out, how do we reach that group of folks? Which pieces do they need to understand? And how much, where is everyone at to learn too, is really important. So not everyone is starting at the same place or has the same goals. So the education is really fluid, just like the environment.
Yeah, and I think that piece of listening, a lot of people, we say it all the time, we like to say, we meet them where they are, whoever we're educating, and we truly do, but that means you do have to listen. And as the pace of change just gets quicker and quicker, it feels like you have less time to stop and listen, but it's so critical, especially with the student athletes. And I mean, we were fortunate enough to have been working with you and be on campus and see your rapport. I mean, you've done a tremendous job with that entire community of coaches and student athletes. So I know they all know they're lucky to be there with you. But anything else, I think it's amazing to talk about listening, but anything else that you feel you just sort of inherently have been able to do to smooth the process that maybe some of your counterparts at other universities have called and asked about?
It's so difficult because we know what we're doing and just how much does it work, or how are we engaged. I think realizing that not everyone is going to want to be engaged right away. And we're having that experience where students are coming back and saying, hey, I didn't maybe dial in as much as I needed to last September, but now I understand how this might affect me, or I have this new opportunity, but I need a refresher. Listening to that feedback too, and realizing that we may have heard it, or we may have worked on it, or feel like we understand it, we as administrators, or we as coaches, or even the community, but reteaching some of those things, or re-explaining. But it's been difficult to figure out where the education needs to come from and to whom. It's a difficult challenge. I think being versatile. So at times we offered things virtually and in person. The scheduling, making sure we tried to offer it in different types of scheduling opportunities for education with you guys, when you came on campus, and team by team, but also virtually, just to make sure if people wanted the information and when they were ready for it, they could come get it.
So much has changed over this last year, and someone like you mentioned, maybe who wasn't dialed in last year, maybe now they want to get dialed in. What do you see this next year, this next academic year looking like as it relates to NIL, in terms of what you all as a university and institution are going to be doing to engage with your student athletes, to again meet them where they are?
Yeah, I think we're going to continue some of the education we did. Obviously working with great partners. There's an offense and a defense side of this, really, or a protecting and a building side, depending on how you look at it. So, our students understood receiving content and maybe sharing content, but did they really understand brand building, or what might they do different in the brand building space? There's still lots to learn there. Same thing with protective education, or just the business side, right? How do they understood maybe a budget, but they didn't understand all the intricacies or the things they could do with their money, or the details of contracts. I think you'll see evolution there too with the contracts, just becoming more robust in some instances, both from the outside and the student side, looking at things more closely. For us, educating will just kind of be going back to those two pillars, right? Brand building and sort of the offensive side, but then also the defensive side, and how do you protect the assets you have and understand the contracts you're signing to position yourself going forward.
Absolutely. I get excited when people talk about contracts. Yes, that needs to be talked about.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they're learning that, right? I mean, we're all learning and looking at those more probably than ever before.
Yep. Last question, crystal ball, where do you see NIL going into the future? So much has changed, kind of taking everything that you've seen, where do you see things 5 years from now?
I wish I could tell you, right? Like, if someone has the crystal ball, please give them my number. It's so hard. I don't know. Thinking back to last July and where we thought we'd see things, we didn't expect group licensing in our state or in our NRL experience, and it's there, right? So I just don't know that we know. I think the interesting thing too is our student athletes are going to bring new and different ideas as well. The younger generation of student athletes are going to bring things that our current student athletes aren't thinking of, because they're watching it, from high schools or from the lower education, coming up. So I don't know if we know. I wish I had a crystal ball. I wish I could give you the golden answer, but I just don't know that we know. I think it's going to continue to change. That's for sure. And everyone, I think, across the board is going to get a little more comfortable with the base level of education, even the community, and beginning to get more active potentially.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
It's always incredible to sit down and chat with you. And like I said, you're doing an incredible job. So keep it up.
Thanks. We appreciate you guys very much.
Thank you.